Expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the advertisers, owners, or management of Pacific Telestations, LLC. For comments, opinions, and questions, please email Jess Lujan at jessthebuzz@gmail.com. The Buzz with Jess Lujan.
Good evening, Guam. I'm Jess Lujan. Welcome to this edition of The Buzz. Exciting show tonight. I have the governor of Guam, Eddie Calvo. Good evening, Governor. How you doing?
Good evening. It's so nice to see you again, Jesse.
Hey,
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Hey, well, it's always a pleasure to have you on, Governor. We haven't spoken about, again, the removal and deportation of these undesirables from our island since we last spoke on radio. So now that we're on TV, we're over a dozen now of these folks. Good news.
And much more to come.
And much more to come. And good news, actually, the President of Palau, Tommy Remengas, now, actually, he's come on board. He says, hey, look, we understand your situation, and we want to be good neighbors. We want to be brothers in this situation. Tell us again, from the genesis to where we're at this point.
Yeah, again, from the very inception of our plans to move forward with the removal of non-citizen convicts from Guam. This was all as a result, first of all, of the inaction of the federal government, who had a responsibility for deportations of non-citizen convicts and criminals from Guam. We had tried every effort this past 6 years as governor, reaching out to the federal government to see what we could do to effectuate the movement of these criminals from Guam. We have about a third of our prison population that are non-citizens. And it was ironic. In one hand, we had the federal government that was basically taking over the prison and saying, hey, you guys are overcrowded and you, Governor of Guam, are infringing in the constitutional rights of those incarcerated, the inmates. In the other hand, we had a prison population that was exploding, and 1/3 of it were non-citizens, and many of them was recidivism. They had been arrested, convicted, gone to prison, gone out, and it was a revolving door. And so with that, we looked all the way to Washington, D.C. And we get a statement from, again, the folks that are in charge, and they say it's not a priority. We started asking questions about how many of you deported? Is there a process moving forward to relieve this pressure in Guam? They couldn't even give us the information.
Well, they admitted,
they weren't doing anything.
They admitted it wasn't a priority.
It wasn't a priority, and they weren't going to give us any information to show what they were doing to solve these issues on criminal activity in Guam. And so for me, looking at what was occurring, looking how crime has becoming a big problem, particularly for some of these folks that are non-citizens, we had to act. And I acted based on the authority that I have as a governor. But it has evolved. We have over a dozen now that are either removed or slated for removal. But the first 5 was done through, again, the process of a governor allowing for a commutation, and of course that a voluntary withdrawal and a removal from the island of Guam by these incarcerees. In fact, I heard one of them now has gotten themselves a job back in their home island, doing pretty good. So it was a win-win. Number one, it was about public safety for the people of Guam, and so with this removal, it ensures that these same individuals aren't going to cause any harm to anyone on Guam. On the other hand, they have a second chance in life at their home island. Now, it's evolved now from a unilateral act done by myself as governor. We've finally shaken the tree, and we're getting the cooperation of the federal government. So for the other inmates that have gone through this process now, because of the federal detainers placed on them by the federal government, I am now commuting their sentences, And the federal government now is doing their jobs. Many of them now are moving forward through the immigration courts and the immigration judge, and are now in the process of either having been deported or being deported.
Now, Governor, let me ask you this, because from what I read, if what I'm reading is true in this sense, that President Tommy Rengasal is saying that he also wants to help alleviate the situation as well, and he understands the situation well, and wants to continue the good neighbor and good again relationship that we have. Now he said he's looking at maybe even having again the residents of Palau who are incarcerated maybe again serve out the rest of their sentence in Palau. Now that will not involve commutation, but it involves more than just the powers of the governor at this point, right? Whether or not, because of course their incarceration and the judiciary had sentenced them in the United States, they're outside the jurisdiction of the United States. So if you don't do a commutation and going to do the rest of their sentences in their homeland, what does that involve?
Well, now we have the federal government that needs to work with us this collaboratively. First of all, I want to thank President Tommy Rengasal. And he saw that it was mutually beneficial for not only the people of Guam, but for a citizen from his home country. He has now an opportunity, I talk about this inmate, an opportunity to be closer to his family. So with President Rengasal, there was an offer that they will pay for transportation. They will transport this inmate back to Palau. The inmate will be incarcerated in their local jail prison to serve out their term. And with that, being closer to their family. And that was very important for President Rengasal, being close to their family, being with their culture. And then ultimately being released, and then having a second chance in life in their home country. I want to thank him for that. And I'm hopeful that President Christian will also, as we see how things are moving along, also agree that this is the best interest of his citizens as well. Rather than being imprisoned in a foreign land, an opportunity to go back to their home country and to be given a second chance in life. I made mention earlier that there was this one inmate that had been sent back to the Federated States of Micronesia, and now he has a job. So that is good for that person, and that's good for the economy also of the Federated States of Micronesia. So I look forward to working with President Christian to see that this is something that obviously was a concern for the people of Guam, because we want to keep our streets safe, but then at the same time, it's also a second chance for someone from his country to go ahead and move forward in life and contribute to building a better life for themselves and doing it at their home island.
Now, Governor, what is the process? Because some folks will think, hey, right, you're going there and picking and choosing now which one to go and all that. What is the process? My understanding is you have, again, a team that has been put together, has already been there, that looks again at who's eligible based on their sustainability, what they've done in prison to better themselves and all that, and the recidivism and all that. And that recommendation then is forwarded to you, right?
Yeah, the process is put forward now by a collection of those in the Department of Corrections officials, the Guam Police Department, as well as some key staffers from Adelup and our lawyers looking at these particular inmates, looking at the crimes that were committed, looking at the length of their service, of serving that time. We set about a 75 to 80% threshold in terms of time served in order to consider this commutation removal, so that there has been punishment. And then with that, also looking at whether they have shown the capacity for rehabilitation and have taken advantage of it. And if it looks again that within this test, by this group, that they've fulfilled 75 to 80% of their term, have not shown much of an opportunity so far of a inclination for rehabilitation, And with that, determining now that with their release, there is a possibility that they will, when they come out into the streets of Guam, will be unable to find a job for themselves, and may particularly go back into a life of crime and causing harm again to the people of Guam. So we do have a process, and it's worked.
Yeah.
And I mean, these critics, I know we've had Senator Mike Saniclas. He's more concerned about the feelings of a foreign government. I think Senator Saniclas should be more concerned about the health and safety of the people of Guam. Many of these criminals committed crimes not just against Chamorro Guamanians, or they've committed against their fellow citizens.
Yeah.
So this is something that, and as what we're seeing, that the whole community is embracing it, and it goes through every segment of the society that wants a safer island.
That's right. And who doesn't want
Exactly.
that? Absolutely.
Exactly.
Governor, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. I want to talk about DOE, the situation over there, because it looks like they're throwing the whole kitchen, even the kitchen sink, at Superintendent John Fernandez.
Unfortunate.
We'll be right back.